What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning in to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Stephen Thompson, coming at you with another Inside Pitt practice report. The Panthers have just finished up practice 9 of spring ball. For those keeping track at home, excuse me, they only get 15 of these things during the spring, and one of them is the annual Blue Gold game, which is coming up in a little over 2 weeks on April 13th. That means things are kind of heating up. There is a sense of urgency now as the Panthers get about midway through spring ball. The bulk of their practices are behind them, and that means that things really have to take steps forward now. They have to start kind of ordering their depth chart. They have to start figuring out, who's going to step up for them, who are going to be their big playmakers, what this team's identity is really going to look like. And I think we're starting to get an idea of their identity on both sides of the ball, or just this team is starting to take a little bit of shape, I think, in my mind. And I think today, get to talk to both Nate Yarnell and Cade Bell. We got a little bit more of an idea of what the offense is going to look like, or what their goals are really for this coming year, and what an ideal version of this offense looks like. We'll kind of start by thinking about the offense from kind of a bigger picture perspective. Cade Bell talked to us today, and it's something that he's reiterated. It's something that his position coaches have talked about as well, as they consider how they're going to install this offense and how they're going to get everyone up to speed. But they're kind of making these guys drink from a fire hose right now. There's no kind of holding back in terms of what they're installing, what kind of commands they're giving to the offense, and just what they're kind of putting on the unit's plate. I'll read you this quote from Cade Bell. Quote, "We're not holding back on the installs. I'm trying to get it all in, so at least we've heard it, we've went over it, we've watched the film on it, just so now when we get back to the summer, we start back at the beginning. When we get back to fall camp, we start back at the beginning. We keep doing that process over and over again, but big progress when you've got a lot in and you're putting a lot on them." So he's seeing progress from this offense, and he's happy with the way they've kind of digested all that he's put on his plate. They're not slowing anything down for anyone. They're giving them a lot to take on, and they're moving pretty quickly through practices. We've heard a lot about how pace and speed and getting reps in is the most important thing to the coaching staff right now. I think conventional logic might tell you that they would rather do it the other way around, where you kind of put the plays in, you bring guys along slowly, you make sure they understand the concepts first, and then you try to get them up to speed with the pace, because the pace is a really integral part of this. The tempo is a really integral part of how Pitt wants to play offense this year. They are kind of approaching it from the opposite direction. They're saying we need to get the pace first. We need to understand playing with speed, and we need to get these reps in. You need to see what it looks like on the field right now when things are a little chaotic. And then once they get back to the meeting room, once they get back to watching film, that's where they slow things down. That's where they try to get the fundamentals and the details schematically more ironed out. They want to kind of throw these guys into the fire. They want to throw them into the deep end and see how they react to it. It's an interesting strategy. I have no idea whether it's better or worse, but it is different. And I think it's not necessarily in line with how most coaches, really across levels, would, imagine how they are going to install an offense. This is putting a lot on people's plates and seeing what they can handle, and then coming back to it and saying, okay, well, let's slow it down now. And then so when we go out the next time, you have a little bit more knowledge in your head. You've seen what you've done wrong on the field, going at full speed, going at a really fast tempo. Let's slow it down in here. Let's see what we can do to kind of clean up the some of the mistakes that we've made. So it's interesting, and I think it's necessary. I feel like this offense is going to have a lot of options. It's going to have a lot of opportunities for players to make decisions and to make choices, and this team will have to kind of feed off of those. And I feel like reps are really the only way to get comfortable with that. And you're working on a limited time, but the Panthers, I think, are happy with the pace that they're going at. I think they're happy with the approach. Hearing from Pat Narduzzi, I think this was a couple weeks ago, where he pointed out that they are getting in, roughly 30% more, 25% more plays per practice than they were before. They are just getting more reps in simply because of the pace and because they are playing with a little bit more urgency right now, just because they have so much that they need to still get in. They have so much that they need to cover before they play the spring game, much less before they get to August 31st, excuse me, the season opener against Kent State. You remember they break for the summer in about 2 weeks. They won't be back for an official practice until start of August. So these are really critical periods where you get the guys to see what it looks like on the field. They can study the playbook as much as they want during the offseason, but nothing really compares to on the field reps. And once you come back for August, there is limited time between that when you return, when you get guys moved in, when you get guys settled into their lockers and onto the field again, back organized and acclimated to football uh, before you can start to really run through the offense. You don't want to be still installing things in August. You want to be fine tuning things. And I think that's the aim of the offense right now. And to kind of get to that point, you need to put a lot on your quarterbacks, or at least Cade Bell thinks that you have to put a lot on your quarterbacks. So that's what he's doing with Nate Yarnell right now. They are putting a lot of decision making on him. They're putting a lot of the command of not just the offense and the plays that they are running, but the pace at which they're moving too. If I'm understanding Bell and his philosophy correctly, they want Yarnell to be kind of an extension of the offensive coordinator. They want him to know, okay, when do I switch out of something? When do I put this play in? When do I know when to go fast? When do I know to slow the tempo up? When do I know to get guys moving? What scenarios do I make certain calls in? And at a certain point, I think they imagine it being kind of second nature for him to understand Bell's philosophy, understand what the offensive coordinator wants, understand where he wants him to go with the ball, when to snap the ball, where to just where to kind of take command, when to fall back, and when to really put his foot on the gas. It's going to be a lot for Nate. It is going to be a lot for all of these quarterbacks. They are learning a new offense like everyone is, but they are learning every part of a new offense. They have to learn every part of a new offense, and they have to get inside the mind of their offensive coordinator a little bit. They have to be, like I said, an extension of him. They have to know what he's thinking. They have to know what he will think. They have to kind of be on the same page with him and able to react to any scenario, to any situation that comes up on the field by the time they kick off that season opener on August 31st. There's a long way to go until then, but like I said, not a lot of time to actually rep these things on the field. So that's why I think Cade Bell has everyone, particularly these quarterbacks, and particularly Nate Yarnell, excuse me, drinking out of a fire hose right now, because they need to absorb all this information. Uh, Now they need to get it in their head so that it kind of can settle in by the time August rolls around. Again, it's interesting to watch them work, because I think when you watch the offense, at least early, and we haven't seen a whole lot of live periods, much less real game action. But this things look like they're going through growing pains, and Bell has acknowledged that, Yarnell has acknowledged that, but those are part of the process. It's part of what they need to do, and it's kind of to be expected when you are trying to again drink out of a fire hose. Some of that water is going to spill out, but they're trying to get as much in there as they can before the steam breaks and doesn't see each other for 3 months or 2 months, 3 months. Yes, it would be May, June, July before they come back in August. I want to wrap this video up by talking a little bit about the defensive line. We'll move over to the other side of the ball. We got to speak with Sean Fitzsimmons today, who echoed something that both Pat Narduzzi and defensive coordinator Randy Bates had brought up at certain points this spring, and that's that the defensive line is going to look really different this year. It's not just some new blood, but excuse me, they've got some different body types in there, and they've got a different style of play in there compared to last year. You look at the two deep from the defensive line last year, and you got David Green, a 285-pounder. You got David Danielson at 290, Tyler Bentley at 300, and then DeAndre Jules at 310. That's a big group. That's a big group of guys, and that's just a lot of mass in the middle. They were a little bit bigger. They were just plainly bigger, to be quite honest with you. And I think Pitt imagined that these guys would be able to plug a bunch of gaps, fill a bunch of holes. It was a little bit of a departure, though, from what they had done in the past. In the past, Pitt had been all about taking some undersized defensive tackles and making them into really quick guys, using their athleticism and their speed to be disruptive. And then you've got, some good inside linebackers supporting them from behind. It was part of the kind of general philosophy of let's be disruptive up front. Let's try to make havoc. Let's try to wreak havoc in the backfield and count on our opponents to make mistakes. It'd been pretty effective. Last year was a departure from that, and it didn't really go very well. The Panthers did not defend the run very well. Teams were able to lean on them pretty consistently, and they zigged when they had been zagging for a few years, and it seems like they're going to make a bit of a transition back. You look at the defensive line this year; it's 275-pound Nakai Johnson, 285-pound Sean Fitzsimmons, kind of leading the way, and then you've also got 290-pound Nick James. That's kind of leading the charge. Even Elliot Donald, who seems to be kind of coming up the rear a little bit, could be one of those guys who's in the mix as well. And you look at the two deep, and there's no one over 300 pounds on there after having two last year and one pretty damn close at 290. It's very different, and they're counting on this group being a little bit twitchier, for whatever that means, quicker, more athletic. Like, we're not comparing any of the guys who are on the line this year to him, but a little bit more in the mold of a Kalijah Cansey versus a Tyreek Jarrett, if you remember him, or even a DeAndre Jules. They're getting a little smaller, getting a little leaner, and hoping that these guys and their quickness, I think Fitzsimmons really fits that role. They believe Johnson really fits that role. We're waiting to see, what really Nick James has, but they're counting on the athleticism and the speed, giving them a little bit more of a better chance to get to the quarterback, to be disrupted in the backfield, get some tackles for loss, make some of those bigger splash plays that the Pitt defense had become known for. It all kind of stems from the defensive line. The Panthers are trying to get back to that. It stems from the front seven. They're trying to get back to that. That's all I've got for today, but appreciate you all tuning in to another Inside Pitt Practice Report. I will be back next week as we get underway with the third week of spring ball. Between now and then, make sure to keep up with all of our reporting. Follow, like, and subscribe this video. Subscribe to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/InsideThePanthers. And follow all of our reporting from spring ball, the Pitt basketball offseason, and more at si.com/college/Pittsburgh. Appreciate you all tuning in. Like I said, can't wait to see you all on the next